All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to week number 5. That is right, week number 5 of your 7305 Foundations in Library and Information Science course. As always, I am Dr. Jace, your professor, and today we are going to first do a few updates on the state of the class, and then we are going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. So, we're going to do those things, and hopefully this video won't be too long, but I'm not going to give an estimate as to how long this video is going to be. But first things first, as far as the state of the class, first of all, again, discussion boards look amazing. They look absolutely amazing. You all are putting some of the best effort into the discussions that I've ever had students put into the discussions. I am very happy about what I'm seeing, and I want you all to keep it up. You all are doing an excellent job. As I said, y'all aren't just, incorporating sources into your discussions, but you are also just taking the time to be very thorough in what y'all are saying. And so the responses, for the most part, do not come off as lazy. They come off as very well thought of. The overwhelming majority of the discussion board posts also assure me that you all have read the literature, and that is something that I'm kind of looking at. When I see things that can be written by people who did not read the actual reading, I'm taking note of that. So keep it up. Keep up the good work that you're doing. I am enjoying the discussion prompts. The second thing that I want to mention, and I think I might have been just a little bit too hard on one of the announcements regarding the APA style and capitalization, but I just don't know what else to do. So let me equate what I think I'm doing with something that's more of a K-12 kind of thing, right? So suppose you were in 3rd grade and the teacher said, oh, by the way, you're going to have a test on Monday, and on that test, question number 3 is going to be, what is 5 times 5? And let's say that let's just say that you understood that as a 3rd grader that question number 3 was going to be 5 times 5, and so that weekend you made sure that you knew the answer to 5 times 5, and that way when you showed up into class on Monday to take that test, you knew the question was coming, question number 3, 5 times 5, and you just write down 25 because the teacher already told you it was coming. I had told you all that the capitalization was different. I told you all that in an announcement, and I told you all to be on the lookout, and I told you all that I would be watching this and marking off if it was wrong. There were only about 2 or 3 students that disregarded me, but the fact that even 2 or 3 students disregarded me and I had to deduct points from those students, it was kind of disheartening because I can't make this any easier. I don't want to deduct points. I think that's something that might get lost in the translation here. But the reason I did that in the first place was because I know that if I don't say anything, at least half the class is going to get it wrong. But my hope is that if I explain to you exactly what I'm doing, then all the class will get it right. And I really did set things up so that everyone would get it right, but I still had 3 people totally just not catch on with the APA capitalization. So you lost points, and if you don't want to lose points in future assignments, then I suggest when a teacher is trying that hard to tell you exactly what's up, just listen, and it can go a long way. So I wanted to say that. And then I just wanted to talk really quick before we get into discussing a little bit about artificial intelligence. I did just want to say that your next assignment is going to be the history timeline. And I did not mean to do that. I know that the history timeline, some people think it's busy work, some people see it as busy work, but no. We do have to establish some form of competency in knowing the past of our profession with our students. And so the history timeline is great for that. It's a great opportunity to give the students some topic or some issue or some just thing within LIS that they can research the history of, and then they can construct a timeline. And it should be a fun assignment. I do hope that you all enjoy putting together your timelines for assignment number 4, but I also want you all to learn some history of the field because of that. And that will make you much more competent in having discussions about where the field has been and where it's going. And for those who get super plugged into librarianship to the point where they're even on library Twitter and all those things, that type of knowledge does come in handy. So I just want that to be clear. Now we're going to talk about some artificial intelligence. So pause. Okay, now, so for those of you who had paid attention to politics, paid attention to the Democratic primaries, particularly last year, one thing that you would probably remember from the Democratic primaries, of course, everyone remembers the candidates that stand out, right? So there was a candidate that stood out because he was different by the name of Andrew Yang. And Yang talked a lot about how artificial intelligence is going to just change the game when it comes to employment. And while I don't want to, again, talk about politics too much, while I don't think that Andrew Yang was necessarily ready to be president, he certainly could advise the president. He certainly knew some things that we are going to need our government to understand when it comes to unemployment, or when it comes to employment, and when it comes to how the artificial intelligence is going to affect employment. Now, I know this has happened to you because it happened to me a lot. And it still happens to me every now and then, even though it doesn't happen as much anymore because I've been in the game. I've been in libraries for 12 years now. But one thing that happens is when you go into librarianship, or when you go into library science and try to get an MLIS, one thing that you are going to hear your friends and families say is, well, why would you do that with the death of libraries? Blah, 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 blah. Now, first of all, these people are not checking the stats because the stats do not reflect that libraries are dying, okay? And if you want to put your librarian skills to work, if you want to go and do some discovery, you will see. The statistics on library use are, they are not suggesting in any way the death of libraries. That's just something that people, because I don't need it, I don't think anybody does. That's basically the logic there. And there are some people who think that the internet has killed libraries. It hasn't. There were people who thought that microfiche and microfilm were going to kill libraries, which that obviously didn't. And we incorporated microfiche and microfilm into library services. We incorporated the internet and the World Wide Web and electronic databases and e-resources into our offerings at libraries. So don't let these people talk to you about how technology is going to do away with the libraries. I can't remember where I heard this quote, but once I heard the quote that libraries are actually going to outlive the internet, and I believe that 100%. Libraries may not necessarily look the way they look now. When they outlast the World Wide Web, that they will be around in some shape or form. But the next thing that we do have to look at is going to be artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is something that is going to be like the internet and like microfilm and microfiche and all of this stuff. Artificial intelligence will be incorporated into library services. And I know that makes people nervous because, yeah, artificial intelligence is going to be used to answer basic reference questions. That's just going to happen. And it's going to be used for other library functions. It's just going to be what it is. But libraries always evolve with the times, and that's what I want you all to keep in mind. So as we incorporate artificial intelligence, yes, the role of the librarian is going to change, but it's not going to go away. All right? But yes, we are going to get to that point, perhaps even within the next 20 years, to where basic how do you find such and such article is going to be performed by bots or some other form of library artificial intelligence. But we will find the human niche always, always. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to some independent learning if you want to do it. But these things are going to be very light things that if you choose to, they're all optional, but you can get through them very, very quickly. And you can Google all these things. So the robots are coming, libraries and artificial intelligence. And one thing that I am going to do with this one is just scroll down here to, okay. So, yes, one of the things that I did want to keep in mind, and I do talk about bias and discrimination a lot, and it's something that I've talked about in this course. But this is something that you're going to hear about in the library field for the time being, and probably in the national climate for the time being. We're just in those times right now. But one thing that we have to be considerate of is that we get, so you have that difference between the cognitive and the affective. The cognitive being the thinking, the rational thinking, the unemotional thinking. And the affective realm is where you get the emotional thinking, where you get decision making based on emotions, whereas if you're making your decisions cognitively, you are supposedly making your decisions based on affects, okay? So, when we talk about AI and algorithms and all these various things, here's something that we do need to keep in mind. And also, let me pause while I pull up this title. Now, unfortunately, I have not gotten a chance to read this book yet, but I've heard very good things from people who have read this book. So this is Algorithms of Oppression that came out in 2018. And I think I'm blocking part of this. How Search Engines Enforce Racism by Umoja Noble. So, but basically, Algorithms of Oppression is kind of revealing how the programming of algorithms and AI and all these various things, they kind of inherit the bias of their programmers and things of that nature. So you will actually find bias in, even in Google searches. For instance, there's a case where if you Google image 3 white, and Google has probably fixed this by now because I know they can fix these things, but one of the things that people were doing about a year ago was Google 3 white teenagers, and you will get just innocent looking white teenagers. And then if you Google 3 black teenagers, you will get mugshots of teenagers who have done something wrong, okay? And so that is bias in the algorithms. And one reason why we need this human component is because I do think that for the most part, AI is designed to satisfy the cognitive and not the affective. And we do have to have a keen handle on the affective realm as librarians and information professionals, because yes, emotions do play a part in people's searching habits, in their verification of information and all of that stuff. And so we have to be attuned to that. And I've not seen where AI really effectively deals with emotion. So that's one thing and one reason why we have to have this human element, is because we have to make sure that our libraries are still not just providing people with information, but that they do it with what I like to call the human touch. But taking into account how people are treated, not discriminating against them, and so forth. And then I'm gonna, because I should keep this under 15 minutes, so I'm just gonna mention these other two things and let you find them on your own and look over them if you want. So the American Library Association actually does now have a page about artificial intelligence, and they're exploring it. I think that this is within the trends. So I think they're still building their resources around this and how they're going to actually address it and tackle it. But the American Library Association has now weighed in, and they are aware of the changing landscape that's going to come with this. And I think and hope that they are therefore brainstorming. And finally, because again, we've got to keep it under 15 minutes here, from Info Today, and you can Google this, Libraries in the Age of Artificial Intelligence by Ben Johnson. This is actually a very, very good piece, but a very short piece about how AI could affect us in the future. Okay, so I am at 15 minutes, so I got to get out of here. I'm Dr. J's Peace and Grace. I'm out.